got back from the home goods store buying some brushes to finish this today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the final pre-finishing. I'm going to sand up to 220 grit, and I'm going to put oil-based polyurethane over the entire desk and shelves. Reason why I'm doing this is the problem with this desk build is when you sand pine, it gets brighter. And the problem is the desk that I'm trying to match is a lot darker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to sand this and finish it up to its final coat. And I'm going to use the sun to artificially change the color of this. So I'm basically going to bake it to the same color that is in this person's house. So again, I'm going to be using oil-based finish, which is used on the current customer's project to match the same color. So with that said, let's get to it. So now I'm going to finish everything up to 220 grit. I'm going to start with 120, do the desk and the shelf, and then once that's done, we'll get the finish on it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack open a can of oil-based polyurethane, and I'm going to pour it into this plastic takeout container. Right? So again, I don't want to take my brush and dip it into the original can because I could put dust particles and a lot of undesirable things that I don't want to end up on my finish or in the can. So I'm going to take this, pour a little bit to the dish, take my foam brush, brush off the excess, and I'm going to set my can off. And you notice I'm not using a bristle brush, I'm using a foam brush. Reason is, with oil-based finish, I find I get a nice, consistent, streakless finish when I'm applying with a foam brush. So just like in the shop, I want to brush a nice, thin coat over the entire surface. Right? And since this is a floating desk, I'm also going to seal the end grains too, because again, I'm not going to glue this desk into its position. So it's just going to be held by the screws. So I'm going to just tap in my excess into the end grain and then brush it all the way across. I like to brush in sections so that I ensure that there's no dry spots as I'm going across. So I'm going to go this length all the way across, and then to do the next segment, then the next segment. It's a nice way to ensure that that first coat, which is the most important, that your foundation layer is nicely coated onto your piece. And sometimes another tip is you want to look at different angles to see where the light's reflecting some dry spots. Sometimes looking directly over top, you won't see those mistakes. So always occasionally check those spots. Another thing too, just again, you want a little bit of finish. You don't want to be shoveling finish onto your project. You want a nice thin coat. Because again, we want this to adhere to the top of our project as evenly as possible, so that as we go up in coats, we have an easier foundation to build off of to make it a nice polished top. Once I got the entire piece covered, I'm just going to gently back brush everything in one direction so I can ensure I don't have any blotch marks. Gently overlap each row, just like when you cut the lawn, you want to overlap each row that you cut so you don't leave any streak marks. This is called back brushing. So again, there's no finish in my project, my brush, I'm just brushing what's there back. So if I did have any excess, I ensure that I clearly coat it all the way across the surface. There we go. So we got the first top coat for the desk top. Now we're going to do the same process to the shelves. So I'm going to just move the camera. So on to the last piece, both the shelves and the desk. Again, the reason why I'm doing this is I want to get the finish on all those parts, take them outside, and I want to use the sun to prematurely age them to match the other desk that is currently at the customer's house. The other reason too is since this wood is going to be sitting around and the moisture humidity is changing a lot, I want to also seal the end grains so that I don't get a lot of movement on my parts before I actually go into assembly. So again, I'm just dotting the T's and crossing the I's before I get to the drawer of my project. So again, that covers everything for today. So with that said, I hope everyone's staying safe and you guys have a great week. Bye.